Dámy a páni, Dorota Korczyńska pôsobí v Európskej komisii ako policy officer pre dlhodobú starostlivosť a je členkou tímu, ktorý sa venuje rozvoju politík starostlivosti na úrovni Európskej únie. Má viac ako 20 rokov skúseností v oblasti sociálnej politiky a jej práca sa zameriava na prepojenie systémov starostlivosti, rozvoj pracovnej sily a podporu sociálnych práv v členských štátoch Európskej únie. Dorota Korczyńska, policy officer v Európskej komisii pre dlhodobú starostlivosť, je s nami aj tu prostredníctvom online telemostu a ja jej v tejto chvíli odovzdávam slovo. Mrs. Korczyńska, welcome to our forum. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Just the first question, which is normal at this occasion. Can you hear me well? Okay, that's perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, dobre ráno. I would like to start by thanking you for inviting me to your European Care Founding Forum and by congratulating you on the initiative. This occasion indicates how important the long-term care agenda is for Slovakian stakeholders and for policymakers, which we at the European Commission appreciate greatly. I think in my intervention today I will echo a little bit on what Ms. Fabianova and Ms. Mohnachova already said, but I would also like to give you, Mr. Moderator said, a little broader perspective on how we see the long-term care from the perspective of the general European Union scope. I would like to indicate that across the European Union, nearly 30 million people need some form of the long-term care. And by 2050, the number of people aged 80 plus will double. And that will place an unprecedented demand on families, on the labor markets, and on public systems. And this is not a distant future scenario. This is our present reality to which we must act now. The European Union, as a joint group of the member states, has recognized this urgency. With the adoption in 2022 of the European Care Strategy by the European Commission and then by all the member states, adoption of the Council recommendation on access to affordable, high-quality long-term care, LTC has moved to the center of the European social agenda. The European Care Strategy has set the EU vision on long-term care. And this vision is to ensure that all people have access to affordable, accessible, and high-quality long-term care that is person-centered, that enables everyone to live with dignity, with independence, and also well-being throughout their lives. The Council recommendation on long-term care calls the member states for action to improve their LTC systems and provides guidance on the direction of national reforms across all relevant areas, which are the social protection, availability of services, workforce, informal carers, and governance. The recommendation is also accompanied by the monitoring framework on access to affordable, high-quality long-term care. It is an important joint step forward. We must acknowledge that no policy making can go without proper data, without proper monitoring and evaluation. So the monitoring framework translates the different dimensions of LTC recommendation into measurable and actionable indicators and policy levers. The first version of this important document already provides valid indicators and context information on LTC with the baseline against which the progress can be evaluated. It will also be monitored and updated on a regular basis starting from this year. The EU role in long-term care is primarily supportive because the responsibility lies with national and regional authorities. We are observing an encouraging progress in many member states in implementation of the Council regulation on long-term care, but the strategies and recommendations, as much as they are important, they are only as strong as their implementation. Today, I would like to reflect on three interlinked challenges facing long-term care systems across the EU and particularly in Slovakia. The first one is demographic pressure and unmet needs. The second one are the workforce shortages and working conditions. And then finally, the third one is the sustainability, reform and investment. Starting from demographic pressure, we all would agree that Europe is aging rapidly. Slovakia displays one of the youngest populations in Europe at present. But at the same time, demographic projections suggest that the population is going to age at one of the highest paces in the EU. The share of people aged 65 plus has increased sharply in the last decade, and the 80 plus population is expected to more than double by 2050. Yet access to long-term care remains uneven. While on average in the EU, 28.6% of people aged 65 plus in need of long-term care used home care services, access varies substantially across member states, from 53.7% in Belgium to just 4.7% in Romania, with Slovakia recording only 12.1%. Another important aspect to consider is geography. Across the European Union, access to long-term care is deeply shaped by this factor. Older people in major cities benefit from denser provider networks, shorter waiting times, and a broader mix of home-based and residential services. Those who live in rural, mountain, and remote regions face fewer facilities, longer travel distances, workforce shortages, and higher levels of unmet needs. In Slovakia, the challenge is visible. Spending on LTC is lower than the EU average. Unmet needs are at a higher level than the EU average. Rural and mountain communities rely heavily on families when it comes to providing care. Too often, distance becomes destiny. Aging with dignity should not depend on a postcode. If Europe can close territorial gaps in infrastructure and connectivity, it can close them also in care. And the mission is clear: to build systems that can reach every citizen. Parallel to accessibility aspects, we need to think also about another crucial point, which is the quality. High quality in long-term care is not a luxury. It is the foundation of dignity, safety, and trust. Quality in LTC means respecting individual needs and preferences, ensuring continuity of care, safeguarding rights, and maintaining clear standards with proper monitoring and accountability. In Slovakia, you already have some bright examples, as the EASY co-founded project creating the LTC centers in Bańska Bystrica. Here, seniors have access to home care, to outpatient and residential long-term care services, coupled with measures that make day-to-day life easier, such as transport services. These services are accompanied by the new and innovative technologies to monitor health, making the care offer more comprehensive and more person-centered. Now, going to the second point, which is the workforce shortages and working conditions. We all probably would agree that no long-term care system can function without workers. And here lies perhaps our most pressing challenge. The EU long-term care workforce counts currently approximately 6.2 million workers, representing around 3% of total employment. But this is not enough. The EU agency CEDEFOP estimates that additional 4.3 million job openings will need to be filled by the year 2035, which is just around the corner, only to meet the basic care needs of the aging population. Work conditions decide on whether we can attract and retain the care workforce. Many care workers work part-time. Many of them are migrants. Some face low wages and also physically and emotionally demanding conditions. The European Agency for Safety and Health at Work consistently shows that the health and social care sector reports some of the highest levels of work-related musculoskeletal disorders and psychosocial risks in the EU. 72% of workers report dealing with difficult patients, and nearly 1 in 2 experience time pressure. Burnout, stress, and physical strain are common realities. The framework of action on retention and recruitment in the care sector underlines a harsh truth. Recruitment efforts alone will not work without improving working conditions, wages, career prospects, and training pathways. To add to this, we should notice that the LTC workforce statistics do not catch another important group of people providing care. Around 80% of care in the EU is provided informally, mostly by family members or undeclared workers. According to Eurofound, women carry most unpaid care responsibilities. In its 2025 research on unpaid care, Eurofound highlights how caregiving responsibilities significantly reduce labor market participation, working hours, and pension entitlements. This is a care issue, gender equality issue, it's a labor market issue, and it is also an economic competitiveness issue. In Slovakia, informal care play a stronger role. While caregiver can receive financial allowances, this may result with the withdrawal from employment in community. So we must ask ourselves, are our systems designed to support families or to rely on them? The third point I would like to touch upon is the sustainability, reform, and investments. So long-term care systems across Europe need ambitious actions to address current and future challenges, underpinned by adequate and sustainable financing. Fragmentation between health and social services leads to inefficiencies. Institutional care still dominates in many regions. Home and community-based services remain underdeveloped in many member states, including Slovakia. If we want to change the situation and address the challenges, we need structural reforms and investments, better coordination between ministries, long-term workforce strategies, and stable financing mechanisms. Through the recovery and resilience facilities, many member states, including Slovakia, have allocated significant funding to strengthen long-term care systems. This results in investments in community-based services, digitalization, workforce training, and DI. This, together with the upcoming new MFF funding, is an unprecedented opportunity that we cannot miss. The European Union has set a direction for the European care strategy and the Council recommendation on access to affordable, high-quality long-term care. As we prepare to take stock of implementation of the Council recommendation in 2027, we are reflecting also on the next priorities of EU action on LTC. As the Executive Vice President, Roxana Mințatu, said, we need a European care deal which will address the challenges of the long-term care workforce, including facilitating the recognition of skills and qualifications, supporting skilling and career progression, and improving working conditions. And we can make the practitioners, social partners, the researchers to turn commitments into measurable progress. Slovakia, all member states, stands now at a crossroads. And the workforce shortages will not solve themselves. But with coordinated reform, investment in people, and sustained political will, we can build long-term care systems that are resilient, fair, and future-proof. The real question is not whether we can afford to act. It is whether we can afford not to. I thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a very fruitful discussion on the long-term care today. Ďakujem.